The unprecedented case, a high seize by the strong arm of the law. And critics have pointed out Attorney General James campaigned on getting Trump.
I will never be afraid to challenge this illegitimate president when our fundamental rights are at stake. I believe that the president of these United States can be indicted for criminal offenses.
Will you sue him for us?
Oh, we're going to definitely sue him. We're going to be a real pain in the He's going to know my name personally.
That man in the White House who can't go a day without threatening our fundamental rights.
Yes, we need to focus on Donald Trump and his abuses. We need to follow his money. We need to find out where he's laundered money. We need to find out whether or not he's engaged in conspiracy. It's important that everyone understand that the days of Donald Trump are coming to an end.
I look forward to going into the office of Attorney General every day, suing him, defending your rights, and then going home.
Former President Trump has less than a week to secure a $500 million bond or risk the seizure of his assets. Judge Arthur N. Gorin, who handled Trump's civil fraud trial, ordered the former president to pay a $454 million judgment in line with penalties requested by the New York Attorney General's office. Trump's lawyers admitted that despite the former president's diligent efforts, it is impossible for him to secure a full appeals bond in that amount due to lack of cash on hand. Trump's lawyers are seeking to obtain a bond so that the enforcement of the eye-popping judgment would be automatically paused while they appeal N. Gorin's ruling.
Trump's lawyers informed the court today that he has not been able to secure a bond for the $464 million judgment against him and his co-defendants in the New York civil fraud trial. His lawyers now say that getting a bond in the full amount is a, quote, practical impossibility after reaching out to some 30 companies. They say that that's because most companies will not accept his properties as collateral and instead are looking for cash to cover the bond. The clock is ticking for Trump with only 1 week left to post the bond, or New York Attorney General Letitia James can start seizing his assets, which she said she's ready to do.
Wall Street Journal did a story on the fact that he's got around $400 million of cash sitting there, is what he has right now. Net worth is around $3 billion. Right? $400 million of cash, 355. They're so close to wanting to deplete him. And this Letitia James person, you know what she wants to do?
The bond situation?
But do you know what she wants?
She wants to seize his assets.
She wants to seize his assets.
Yeah.
She wants to yellow tape, red tape around the buildings and saying, hey, these assets have been seized by they want to seize, they want that visual because he can't post bond for 464 right now in a New York civil case. The dark strategy of cornering him with things like this, with a specific amount of money to hurt him so they can seize his assets to embarrass him. Guys, it's going to be so nasty the next 6 months. It's going to be so nasty the next 6, 7, 8 months on what they're going to do. But all of this stuff comes together. They fear this guy being in the White House. I don't know why. They fear this guy being in the White House.
This has been called un-American, but what's important to point out is this is America now. This is the America that we live in. This is the norm, this kind of lawfare against political opponents. And, you know, Attorney General Letitia James campaigned on this, right? She said she would get Trump. Now she is getting Donald Trump. And if you dig into the ruling, what is so evil about it is to make it impossible for him to even appeal, right? Because he has to come up with the cash to be able to appeal, almost $500 million to even be able to appeal this ruling. He also made it where he was barred from trying to borrow from a New York bank. And then even beyond that, his team, his attorneys pointed out that only a handful of bond companies are approved by Treasury to issue and to underwrite a bond this large. And at max, they'll do like a single $100 million bond. So the judge knows that the task that he has put in front of Trump, this ruling, is impossible to meet. The standard, it's impossible to meet to be able to appeal. And the pain is the point.
Another former president is asking an appeals court, though, to pause the judgment or accept a lower bond of only $100 million. Trump's attorneys wrote in the court filing this, quote, obtaining such cash through a fire sale of real estate holdings would inevitably result in massive, irrecoverable losses, textbook irreparable injury. Well, if Mr. Trump doesn't meet the deadline on Monday, Attorney General Letitia James, who brought the case, could potentially freeze his bank accounts and then even go after some of his real estate properties, like the iconic Trump Tower, to satisfy the judgment. Trump says that would be unfair, pending the final outcome of his appeal.
The former president's appeal could go forward without the judgment taking effect. If the full appeals panel does not reach a compromise with Trump and no bond is posted, New York Attorney General Letitia James can begin to enforce Engoron's judgment by starting to seize Trump's assets that include some of his most famous Manhattan properties, such as Trump Tower and 40 Wall Street. Kevin O'Leary says seizing Donald Trump's assets like he was in Venezuela or in Cuba is not good for business in New York or America. There are no $500 million bonds, O'Leary said. It's never been done before. This law has never been applied. He added,
I don't think it's a case about Trump at all anymore. I think people should be thinking about the policy being put in place here, the competitiveness of New York State versus other U.S. states, but more importantly, the message about the American brand. You think about America, the reason this is the #1 economy on earth is that we have laws and we have due process and we have property rights. It attracts foreign capital from all around the world. All of that is being shaken to the core here. The concept of seizing assets in 30 days on a bond number that's never been issued. No insurance bond company's ever issued anything near this, so there was no chance it was going to happen. And only giving 30 days notice and time, that's a really bad message. And I think New Yorkers should think well past Trump. Whether he's president or not, or whether this attorney general is gone in 4 years or not, it's irrelevant. This is case setting against the American brand. The most stable country on earth, anywhere, to put capital to work over a long period of time, particularly in real estate, is the United States of America. This is an assault on what we believe to be core. And I find it extraordinary. I think it's very troubling. It has absolutely nothing to do with Donald Trump at this point, in my view. And everybody's waiting for one thing we haven't got yet: adult supervision. Where is it? Where are the adults in this crazy narrative? Certainly there's got to be adult supervision at some point. And I understand, you know, the war going on here and all the political yada, yada, woof, woof, woof. But we need an adult in the room now. This is the United States of America under siege.
The Eighth Amendment states excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishments inflicted. If there is anything that this Eighth Amendment prohibits and tried to proscribe against, believe me, it is a $500 million of judgment for a working New York employer with 0 victims.
And then Kevin had a great point about adults in the room, which brings us back to the Eighth Amendment. Are the adults in the room ultimately going to be the Supreme Court? So that's the question of where this could potentially head. We are looking at Monday. The $1 million question is a $500 million question as they dig into that, and we'll see if they actually do end up going after any of the properties. And as you mentioned, if it's one property and a fire sale, and then they sort of start to make their own argument where they're saying the properties were never valued the way they should have been. Look, we just did this sale. Look what we got. And in reality, it's a fire sale instead of a fair market. But we'll see what ultimately happens.